I want to start with the Tom Brady aspect. How significant is it that he got involved and, lend his support and his signature to this letter?
I think it's very significant, especially having Tom be a guy who hasn't been involved in politics at all. He's kind of stayed away from it, but it just goes to show that people are tired of this happening. We've seen it over and over again, and far too long. We've allowed it to go on and not speak out about it. So, to have someone like Tom Brady, sign a letter, it was very significant.
Anquan, thank you for being on the show. I'd like to ask, did you or anybody associated with the Players Coalition approach Tom Brady, the Stan Van Gundy's of the world, and others, meaning individuals who don't happen to be African American, to get them involved, or is this something that they took upon themselves to attach their name to and get involved with?
Well, we reached out to a number of people, but I would say that Stan Van Gundy is a guy that I've worked with on a number of different issues, especially here in Florida. He helped us get the Amendment 4 passed last year, which restored voting rights to formerly convicted felons. So Stan Van Gundy is a guy that's always been involved. He's a guy that stood side by side with us on a lot of different issues. Tom Brady is a guy that some of the guys reached out to, and he was more than willing to sign on to the letter. But like I said, it just goes to show that people are tired of seeing the same thing happen in this country.
Anquan, when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball in 1947, and he was ruthlessly, heckled and debris thrown at him by fans and everything, Pee Wee Reese, his shortstop, white obviously, put his arm around Jackie Robinson at one point. I made that comment on the air and wondered around the time of the Kaepernick protest why a prominent white player hadn't done that to an African-American player who was protesting. And, of course, leave it to Chris Long, puts his arm around Malcolm Jenkins. The locker room, being as diverse as it is, and the cross kind of pollination of backgrounds and cultures and stuff like that in the locker room, why do you think it's been so slow coming for prominent white athletes to stand up and do the right thing, to put their names on the dotted line and show support?
Well, I have to speak for the guys that I know and the guys that I've talked to. Actually, Josh McCown is one of the original guys of the Players Coalition, and you mentioned another guy in the coalition. But every time I talk to white players, it's not that they don't care about what's happening to African Americans in this country. A lot of them are afraid to say the wrong things. So that's why a lot of guys stay away from being in front of the cameras and speaking out about certain subjects. And honestly, they don't go through what we go through. But to say that they don't support us, that will be far from the truth.
Anquan, I'm certainly not going to accuse them of saying that they don't support. I'm certainly not going to accuse them of not supporting you, because I know a whole bunch of white athletes that are incredibly supportive of the causes you guys are willing to tackle. But when you say that they're afraid to put their name to something, they're afraid to publicize what their position is, I can certainly understand why the black athlete is fearful, because there's a lot to be fearful of in terms of if you're worried, that is, about what kind of monetary repercussions may come your way. But we move forward anyway. What have these athletes, the white athletes, said to you as to what their fear is and why they're fearful? Anything specific that you can point to in that regard?
Again, it's the messaging. They want to make sure that the message that they speak out is right. Like I said, from the guys that I've talked to, they want to make sure that what they say doesn't hurt the cause as opposed to helping it.
That is very encouraging to hear. And we've heard this from athletes, African-American, European-American, for lack of a better term. I guess that would be the parallel term. Who don't speak out and who are criticized sometimes simply say that they're not great public speakers, or else they're not educated enough about the subject and they're afraid of putting their foot in their mouths and hurting the cause. And you're here telling us that in your experience, and I realize the irony is an African-American athlete comes to talk about this and we're asking you about why aren't white players doing X, Y, and Z, but in your experience, that many white or most white players who are approached or who you know are involved in this actually want to do the right thing, but because they haven't been through the struggle are not sure that they're actually going to help when a microphone is put in their face?
Most definitely. Like I said, take Josh McCown, for example. The minute I called Josh McCown up, the first thing he said was, bro, whatever you need, I'm all in. And he was like, I may not know what you're going through. I might not know the right things to say, but I'm standing with you. Josh and I have a relationship going back to, when I was a rookie in Arizona. He was the first guy to invite me to his house for Thanksgiving on the entire football team. I've actually slept over to his house, helped him with a couple football camps. He's done the same thing with me. So we have a relationship. And he's a guy that's very concerned, not only him, but his family as well. And although they don't know the right things to say at different times, he's definitely behind the cause.